Going through the classical symptoms of an underactive thyroid are going to be weight gain, hair loss, heavy periods, cold intolerance, fatigue, having a puffy or swollen face, potentially having puffy or swollen eyes as well, low mood, depression, or apathy. In hyperthyroidism, we're going to see symptoms like weight loss, irritability, anxiety, sometimes panic attacks, hair loss, scant or very light periods, heat intolerance when the person just cannot tolerate heat, fatigue, as well as insomnia. Now, person has Hashimoto's, they're actually going to have symptoms of both an overactive thyroid and an underactive thyroid. This is because when the thyroid gland is under attack by the immune system, it will actually start dumping thyroid hormone into the bloodstream, leading to an overactive thyroid. When the thyroid hormone is cleared out, then we're going to see that the person will become hypothyroid and they'll have symptoms of an underactive thyroid. This is especially likely to happen, this kind of a emotional roller coaster per se, of feeling like you're irritable and anxious, but yet at the same time you're depressed and you're apathetic and you're gaining weight, but then you're having palpitations and tremors, and you can have dry skin, and kind of it seems like you're all over the place. This is very likely to happen in the first 10 years when a person has Hashimoto's, when their thyroid gland is still somewhat intact, because this allows the immune system to just keep damaging the thyroid, and then more thyroid hormone is rushed into the bloodstream until it's cleared out. It's really easy to see why a person with Hashimoto's, especially in the first 10 years or so, is very likely to get diagnosed with a mood disorder like depression, anxiety, panic attacks, and even bipolar disorder. And this is because of these up and down swings. And a lot of times we're going to see that for the first 10 years, as I mentioned, the person may not have quote unquote overt hypothyroidism. So they may be testing with their TSH in the normal limits, and they may be testing with their TSH as slightly elevated, but most doctors will say, oh, well, this doesn't need thyroid hormone medications. The crazy thing, no pun intended, is that many people have actually been able to stabilize their quote unquote mood disorders, or reverse them, or perhaps be told that they were misdiagnosed when they optimize their thyroid hormones. And so for a very large amount of people, when we optimize thyroid hormones, mood gets better or completely improves. Some cases we may need to do slightly deeper work. Going through the whole Hashimoto's self-management program will teach you all of the different things you need to do, and we have really, really amazing results with mood especially. So I encourage you to make sure that you go through the whole program. One really important thing to think about is subtle signs. This is something that is very relevant to you to see where your thyroid function is heading. And so as you go through the Hashimoto's self-management program, as you go through the journey with your condition, you may find yourself either becoming progressively more hypothyroid, and this could be because of accelerating damage to the thyroid gland, which we're hoping is not going to happen, or you may find that you become more hyperthyroid, where your thyroid hormone may be, you may have too much of it on board. And this can actually happen as you start improving, when you're absorbing your medications better, and then when your attack on the thyroid gland is not as great, and when your thyroid tissue starts regenerating. And so you want to look out for these subtle signs. And these subtle signs are your sort of call to action to go and get your thyroid function tested to see if you need an adjustment of thyroid hormone medication. Now, we'll talk about schedules of how frequently you should be testing if you're stable. These subtle symptoms will supersede your traditional testing schedule. So these are signs that you need to go get tested. So for hypothyroidism, some of the subtle signs that your thyroid is becoming more sluggish, that you may need a higher dose of thyroid hormone medication. If you have straight hair, one of the things that I've noticed in myself as well as in my clients is that hair becomes more tangly and perhaps starts to fall out a bit. This is going to be a symptom that you may need to get your thyroid hormones tested and get additional medications. More naps, feeling slightly more forgetful, as well as carpal tunnel or pain in your arms are going to be signs that you may be hypothyroid. As far as symptoms of an overactive or hyperthyroid state where your body is on its way to becoming hyperthyroid and you need to test that to see if potentially you need to reduce your dose of thyroid hormones, is going to be irritability. So all of a sudden, everybody just kind of annoys you and gets on your nerves, right? One of my big tests is if everybody is awful and irritating to me, I like to step back and think about, okay, is my husband irritating? Is my mom irritating? Are my clients irritating? Are my coworkers irritating? And then the big question is my dog irritating? Because if everybody is irritating me and everybody's annoying, there's a chance that the problem is with me and not with them, right? And so generally irritability can be a symptom of an overactive thyroid, can also be a symptom of adrenal dysfunction. So we're going to cover adrenal dysfunction in another module, and you should definitely know about that. Hair falling out is going to be another potential symptom of trending towards an overactive thyroid. Having a fast heart rate. So I encourage you to keep track of your heart rate on a regular basis. When we have an underactive thyroid, the heart rate can be slower. And when we have an overactive thyroid, that can make our heart rate faster. Now, whether you're an athlete and whether you're dehydrated, there's a variety of different factors that can impact your heart rate. So that's not necessarily something to necessarily be a stickler about, but you want to measure your baseline heart rate. And when you see that going up or when you start feeling that you have palpitations, that's going to be a sign that you may be going towards being hyperthyroid. If you tend to be out of breath or have some shortness of breath, this is a sign that you need to test. And then also, one strange symptom that's been reported by my clients is calf pain. So whenever they're overdosed on thyroid medications, calf pain can be a potential symptom. So I hope that you understand what some of the subtle signs and symptoms are of being hypo or hyperthyroid or trending towards that way, to make sure that you are properly tested and screened for hypothyroidism as well as hyperthyroidism when you're taking thyroid medications or not, to make sure that your thyroid hormones are optimized.